From the Cronkite Studios in downtown Phoenix, this is Cronkite News.
Welcome to the special edition of Cronkite News. I'm Lauren Hornberger. Thanks for joining us. One of the focus areas for our Cronkite News reporters is the future. Tonight, a series of stories on the technology, companies, initiatives, and science that are taking Arizonans to new frontiers.
Arizona is one of several states leading the nation in the testing of self-driving cars. While it could be a while before you can own one, some of the leading car companies currently testing the technology are working with Congress in Washington. Cronkite News reporter Tyler Finger is in Washington, D.C. to tell us how the road ahead could be a bit bumpy as the technology develops.
We're going to do this in a safe way, and when we're ready to deploy driverless vehicles, we'll deploy them, but not before.
General Motors was one of several automakers on Capitol Hill working toward a common goal of getting fully autonomous cars on the road in the hands of consumers. GM says safety is what it's all about.
There are huge societal benefits to self-driving vehicles, and principal among those are the safety benefits.
It's like allowing teenage drivers on the road. They may not be safe drivers yet, but they need good driving experience to become safe drivers.
Several companies are currently using Valley Streets to refine the software behind their cars, like General Motors, Ford, and Google. GM says the testing has gone well.
The vehicles that are deployed in Scottsdale, Arizona, we have vehicles that run 24/7. As I said, they're one of the 3 sites where we do development, and yeah, it's going very, very well.
The future of cars and drivers is more clear. But still, the futuristic cars are just that, futuristic, for now. In Washington, Tyler Finger, Cronkite News.
Horses can now save other horses with help from a startup in Arizona. Cronkite News reporter Amanda Luberto shows us how a new treatment is being used in the animal world.
On a ranch in Chandler, Cheyenne could give birth any day now. Cheyenne is going to be a part of a new process that uses amniotic material to regenerate tissue and bone in injured animals. Chandler-based Anicel Biotech developed the process. CEO Brandon Ames was inspired when his daughter had to put down her horse because of a drug interaction. He assembled a research team to study amniotic fluid and found success with the treatments.
I knew of this technology and had been introduced to this technology, and it was one of them things that just continued to come back time and time again, and finally I decided that it should be in the animal world as well.
Dr. Moises Barcelo takes the collected fluids, separates out what he needs, and creates the injections. But back on the ranch is where the real miracles happen.
Horses like Cheyenne will come to the ranch to have their babies, to have the materials collected for the regenerative treatments.
In Cave Creek, equine surgeon with Chaparral Veterinary Medical Center, Dr. Wade Walker, says that there are 2 main concerns with the treatment: cost and time. For a horse, the treatment can cost thousands of dollars and take months of recovery. But he also says it's the future of equine medicine.
Future of stem cells will be off-the-shelf stem cells, so we can determine a horse needs it. We can go into our pharmacy and take it off the shelf and inject.
Walker says stem cell procedures on a horse are very safe, but the science is still developing. In Chandler, Amanda Luberto, Cronkite News.
Vets have used the treatment for horses and dogs to regenerate cells and help heal injuries in tendons, ligaments, and eyes.
He already makes one of the fastest cars on the planet and has launched rockets into space. Now Tesla and SpaceX CEO Elon Musk wants to find a faster way for mass commuting. And as Farai Bennett reports, a group of ASU engineering students are on it.
This flywheel is moving 750 miles per hour. That's the speed ASU engineers hope to achieve by traveling from Phoenix to San Diego.
We have traffic problems just like everywhere else, and so we want to try and see what we can do to not only alleviate some of the traffic problems that we have, but create a more sustainable solution.
Lynn Nefkin is the co-lead of AZ Hyperloop team that is competing with schools around the nation to partner with SpaceX to create this form of transportation.
The Hyperloop is a new form of transportation that has been proposed by Elon Musk of SpaceX. And what we're looking at doing is creating, picture an airplane without wings. And it can hold about 26 to 28 people, and this is called a pod. And inside of a steel tube, this pod will travel.
Nefkin says that ASU and SpaceX's goal for this innovation is to make time a lot more reliable than it is to fly a plane or drive a car.
the innovation's changing the world. It's being able to tell somebody that in 10 years and 20 years they'll be able to go to San Diego for lunch. They'll be able to go to Vegas for lunch. Spend half of their lunch hour gambling away their life savings. Why not?
Some of the features the pod plans to incorporate are magnetic levitation and compressed air that removes atmosphere drag, which will make the loop go faster. The ASU goal, a day at the beach could be no more than a 30-minute drive. In Mesa, Farai Bennett, Cronkite News.
The AZ Hyperloop team hopes to meet with SpaceX this summer to determine if the plans will be chosen.
The idea of seeing what your child will look like before they're born can be an amazing and emotional experience for parents. Los Angeles Bureau reporter Chantel Del Aguila shows us a new type of technology that enables all parents to be able to bond with their little one before birth.
Like, I get really emotional when I saw it the first time. It's something different.
This is Sandra and Armando's sixth pregnancy, but unlike before, they are able to experience a different bond with their baby girl thanks to 3D printing. Fernando Farias says he came up with this concept while his wife was pregnant. He developed a 3D printer that takes an HD sonogram picture and creates a sculpture for families to enjoy.
And I knew there was something missing in the sonography and ultrasound. I decided to go ahead and 3D print. I actually came across an ultrasound. I extracted the baby, and the rest was history.
His purpose was to create a special bond for all families, especially those who have the disadvantage of not being able to see their child in the womb.
It can help military families. That's something that prior to meeting his child, he will be able to take with him and bond while he's away.
It's great because I can see whatever I want the face of my daughter, and I have something that reminds me the pregnancy of her.
3D print sculptures can take about 4 to 6 hours, depending on the detail as well as the size of the sculpture.
The process is done in 3 phases: scan, design, and print. But the end result is well worth the wait.
With my fifth kid, but it was like the 3D, it's nothing compared to this one. This one's more like real.
The starting price for a sculpture is $120, which can be purchased anytime after the first sonogram session. In Los Angeles, Chantel Del Aguila, Cronkite News.
According to the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics, 73% of the coding field is comprised of men. However, Cronkite News reporter Cassidy McDonald found that there are many women-based groups in the Phoenix community making efforts to close the gender gap in the coding field.
Seeing a group of women who catch up once a week over coffee is nothing out of the norm. But at Changing Hands Bookstore in Central Phoenix, there is only one requirement to becoming a part of this caffeinated group: have an interest in coding.
What I'm trying to do is a weekly code and coffee.
The Women Who Code Weekly Meetup runs through a partnership with the national nonprofit Girl Development Program. The purpose is to create a sense of community and provide tutoring to women in the coding field.
Every week there's somebody new that is interested in programming, but we always have someone there that comes because they're feeling they're not part of things maybe in the workplace. Maybe they're the only woman in the department, but for some reason it got to be associated as a man's job.
Many women who are involved in the Girl Development Program say that the lack of women in technology-related careers can instill feelings of doubt.
It's this imposter syndrome, right? Everybody goes, it's not really me who's doing it. I can't really do this. So I tell them, I say, you know what you need to do is you need to get inside your head somehow. Figure out how to get inside your head and tell yourself that it's okay.
According to the U.S. Department of Labor Statistics, women hold only 26% of the approximately 4 million computing-related occupations in the U.S.
I'm outside of ASU's School of Computing, Informatics, and Decision System Engineering, where an ASU coding professor told me that only 10 to 20% of all students in her class are women.
See a lot of female students succeed in our program, and actually top students tend to be female students too.
However, in order to encourage more female students to pursue computing careers, she feels that women need more exposure to the field.
They don't get exposed to this kind of concepts early on, so they feel a little bit intimidating when they come to colleges.
Pond says that the program helps empower women to show them that they can become coders.
2 years ago, I was doing girl development classes, and now I'm a developer. If we can empower women in technology, then they're going to empower other women. And it's just going to be this kind of flow into closing the gender gap.
In Phoenix, Cassidy McDonald, Cronkite News.
There are between 10 to 30 million deaf people that use sign language as their primary way of communicating in the U.S. But with advances in technology, deaf and hard of hearing people are left behind with very limited resources. Cronkite News reporter Chantel Delagula tells us about a life-changing device that is giving deaf people a voice.
So many new things happening, it has helped us to become more familiar and more easily accessible and being like a normal person.
For more than 29 years, the company Language People has provided software for the deaf to communicate. While helpful, deaf people like Greg Brooks still struggled. But the actor describes the new Connect tablet software as a game changer.
In the past, I'd go to a person and I'd have to write with them and then write back and forth, hand gestures, and I wouldn't understand what they're saying. They'd write back. Now I just a push of a button, hello, here I am, and converse back and forth.
This simple device connects to Wi-Fi, and within minutes, a virtual interpreter who knows sign language and 150 different foreign tongues appears on screen.
So a resident or a visitor could use these services coming to City Hall or going to one of our libraries for a whole bunch of different things.
The City of Newport Beach and Language People partnered to provide 7 devices so residents and visitors have an easier way to communicate.
Half of the deaf population has a reading level of 3rd grade or less, which can make it difficult to do everyday activities.
This virtual conversation is similar to Skyping, but instead of a call between 2 people, it goes directly to a sign language interpreter.
America needs to know that this software has saved lives for deaf people.
The city and company look forward to adding more devices in other locations across Newport in the years ahead. In Newport Beach, Chantel Delagula, Cronkite News.
While the tablet is exclusively in Newport, there's a free app anyone can use for visual translation right on their smartphone. The app can be found in the App Store under LP Connect.
Everything around us seems to be smart these days. We have smart watches, smartphones, and now we have smart homes that are controlled by a single tablet. Reporter Morgan Wheeler took a tour of a smart home that just might be the future for homeowners.
An HGTV smart home has keyless doors, motion-activated and musical toilets, and a refrigerator that can show you need eggs and butter while you're still in the grocery store. But how soon will homeowners see this in their houses?
I have one in my own home where my kids can come and go without keys. I can let people in even if I'm not in the house.
One generator, one smart tablet, and a whole lot of smart technology is all it takes to get this $1.5 million smart home in Scottsdale running.
This becomes the keys to your entire house, whether it's your lighting system, your audiovisual system, your safety and security system.
The master bathroom has some of the latest tech gadgets, with one thing that catches the eye and ear. A motion monitored toilet automatically lifts up the seat cover. It also plays music. The technology continues in the kitchen.
The refrigerator is always kind of like the home's bulletin board. It's where you put the artwork that the kids make. It's where you put your to-do list or your shopping list.
It also has a built-in camera. Homeowners can remotely look inside while out shopping, all from a smartphone. All the smart technology features can be useful, but how realistic is it for homeowners to purchase or install their own smart home system?
You can take any home and spend anywhere from $1,000 to $2,000 and make it very smart and have it do a lot of things. Smart isn't as expensive as it used to be.
Smart home security could be tricky. Just like with a regular home, anyone can get in if they want to.
You can do really smart things like make sure that your router has a safe and secure password, your keyless system has a safe and secure password, and that if you lose your phone, you immediately are aware and you can lock that up so that nobody can grab it and have access to your home.
Also, if the internet system crashes, there is the possibility of outsiders hacking in. Another possible downside, if a smart tablet dies, you won't have access to the home. And homeowners should think about having a generator installed to run those smart items in case of a power outage. In the Broadcast Center, Morgan Wheeler, Cronkite News.
The City of Phoenix and business across the valley are coming together to celebrate Modern Phoenix Week through April 2nd. Reporter Nicole Gutierrez tells us how the imprint of mid-century modernism impacts Arizona residents by the works of businesses restoring and re-imaging buildings and houses.
Businesses and organizations came to the American Institute of Architecture in downtown Phoenix to discuss the importance of renovation and using mid-century buildings and homes in the state of Arizona.
The greenest building is the one that already exists.
Businesses, enthusiasts, and organizations gathered at the American Institute of Architects in downtown Phoenix to discuss the importance of mid-century buildings and homes in the state.
Arizona, and Phoenix especially, has a real great legacy of modern architecture.
A legacy of transplants, people from outside of Arizona who relocate here but may not have long-term ties to the community.
A lot of people came to Phoenix from other places, and so that plays into the lack of investment that we might have in our charitable organizations, in our arts and culture, even in our investment in new businesses.
Attendee Jan Moreleto's parents is an example of Arizona residents that came from Michigan to find a mid-century home that had the potential for minimal renovations to fit today's demands.
The realtor had found them a house in Arcadia, which was just perfect. It was just the right size. It wasn't too large, and it was just modern enough that my dad could renovate it and make it what he wanted. I see the importance of keeping the old houses and refurbishing them and being able to understand why they were built the way they were built, so that it can show us how to replicate it again.
Modernizing pre-existing structures can lead to an increase in the city's investments, according to Local First Arizona.
Modernism and historic preservation of these buildings that were, our local style is part and parcel to having a city that people are going to identify with and want to invest in.
If you're interested in attending tours, talks, or events about Modern Phoenix Week, you can visit modernphoenix.net. In Arcadia, Nicole Gutierrez, Cronkite News.
A recent study shows that people age 55 and over buy technology but don't know how to use it. Farai Bennett takes a look inside a company that works to make you feel more comfortable using your devices.
Scottsdale-based Groovy Tech strives to help clients not just use but engage with their TV, printer, scanner, or any smart device in less than an hour.
A lot of our clients are people that have been extremely successful, whether it be, heads of law firms or whatever it may be, and then they sit there and the only time that they're made to feel kind of stupid is when they're learning how to use their device.
One of Groovy Tech's main clients, Joni Herbst, says the company helped her out step by step with scanning computer files for her husband's business shortly after he passed away overseas in a plane crash.
When you work for a corporation, you always have your IT people, and they introduce you to the latest and newest things. Not having any of that corporate support just left me all alone trying to figure out all these things.
Herb says she finds Groovy Tech different than learning from friends because they're more patient.
They sit down in front of the computer and they just go click, 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 click. And you're watching, but they don't let you do it. They want to fix the problem, but they're not teaching. And George was so good about that because not only could I ask the question, but then he would let me hit the buttons.
Learning to use technology by getting hands-on themselves. In Scottsdale, Farai Bennett, Cronkite News.
It's the most common spoken language in the world, and right here in the Valley, students can start learning it in kindergarten. Cronkite News reporter McKenna Delgarno went to Tarwater Elementary School, where students are learning Mandarin.
There are 14 schools here in the Valley that offer Chinese language immersion programs. Tarwater Elementary School in Chandler is one of them. Students participating in the program spend half the day learning in English and the other half in Mandarin.
It makes them special and different, so they are passionate to learn this language.
Lisa Ye is a second grade Mandarin teacher at Tarwater. She says there are many reasons why students choose to learn the language.
They love Chinese culture, and also one day they want to go to China.
The development of these Chinese immersion programs was part of ASU's Confucius Institute.
We think that it's important for students to learn Chinese because it gives them a broader perspective on the world. I think it makes them better critical thinkers.
Director of the Institute, Robert Joe Cutter, says learning dual languages at a young age can have long-term effects.
Over the years, studies have shown that people who study other languages do better across the boards in school in their other subjects.
Yeo says that children catch on quite easy to the language.
At the beginning, maybe they just learn some words, and now they already could make sentence.
中文好办.
中文好办. Is that right?
Yeah.
High five. Tarwater offers the program to students in kindergarten, first, and second grade. In Chandler, McKenna Delgarno, Cronkite News.
To see a full list of schools that offer Mandarin immersion programs, go to confuciusinstitute.asu.edu.
Buckeye, Arizona is one of the fastest growing cities in Maricopa County. Reporter Kennedy Scott tells us how the city plans on addressing its growth.
In the next 12 months, you can count on more success in our great city, including increased retail and commercial businesses coming to Buckeye.
Mayor Jackie Meck says people are moving to Buckeye because of its scenery and business opportunities.
What we're trying to do right now is get buildings, jobs, commercial, industrial in here.
The city worked with Fry's to bring a new store that will serve 250,000 residents within a 15-minute commute.
Some of our great changes coming to Buckeye in the near future include more amenities and services for you.
But with growth comes safety concerns.
In the last few years, we were able to expand and grow, and we were able to hire more manpower.
The Fire and Medical Department strategically placed 2 new locations in order to better serve the community.
As the population increases, we will be asking for more manpower.
The mayor said the financial strength of Buckeye has grown along with the development of the city.
In the last 5 years, our bond rating has jumped 4 ratings.
Buckeye population growth increased by nearly 700% since 2000, and it's not done yet.
We've accomplished some great things in the past year, but there's still much more to plan, execute, and accomplish.
The population is projected to top 300,000 by the year 2040. In Buckeye, Kennedy Scott, Cronkite News.
Children of today are growing up with the internet as a main form of communication, a big learning point, the difference between a friend and a follower. Cronkite News reporter Alexa Stukrath talked to parents that gathered at Cheyenne Traditional School to learn about how they can help keep their kids safe on the internet.
The reality is a lot of dangers that once existed on the street are now online.
And a local nonprofit, Not My Kid, is educating parents about how they can help to protect their children from these potential dangers.
It's scary out there, especially for parents and your kids.
Retired FBI agent John Yanarelli says you should think of the internet the same way you think of public places.
They're not safe all the time when they're driving. They're not safe all the time when they're at the mall. They're not safe all the time on the internet.
So they should be monitored while online, and parents say they need to do a better job of that.
There are times where we have had problems in the past, so we've implemented rules, and then over time we've kind of let it slide.
I try to do my best to be up to speed on things, but that does not mean that I am.
Now, there are so many ways parents can protect their kids through cybersecurity.
When we get into those situations where we are not monitoring the way we should, that we've got a backup system in place where we can fall back and look at what's been happening when we haven't been paying attention.
If parents learned anything from the seminar, Yanarelli hoped it was this.
Don't be afraid of the internet. Make your kids aware of the internet.
And be aware of what they are doing in cyberspace. In Scottsdale, Alexa Stukrath, Cronkite News.
Not My Kid schedules seminars on several topics at schools all around Arizona. Cheyenne Traditional School will hold another seminar on April 5th about substance and alcohol abuse.
According to ADOT, drivers 16 to 24 engage in distracted driving at higher rates than older drivers. One Valley High School is hoping to change that. Students put on a pair of 3D glasses and suddenly are behind the wheel experiencing an impaired driving scene. Cronkite News reporter Alexa Stukrath talked to students and local authorities on the program's effectiveness.
Chandler High School is hoping to make their teen drivers less distracted.
There was something in that presentation about the Cinema Drive that touched every single student that saw it.
By showing a 3D movie that gives real-life examples of how every choice made behind the wheel has an impact.
They showed it from all 3 perspectives and how much all 3 of them regretted their choices leading up to it so much, and just that it wasn't one person, it was all of them.
It was a really good kind of representation of what we should expect when we go out onto the road.
The topics of Cinema Drive ranged from distracted driving to drinking and driving. With all the topics, it made one thing clear.
If you're going to make that decision, make the next decision to a not driving.
We need to reach young people and
people in general to realize what the dangers are of driving.
This movie left an impact with students.
My habits will be a lot more kind of slowed down, and I'll think about what I'm doing before I do it.
After seeing like the repercussions of what can happen, I kicked up the safety.
And others who watched it.
I sat through it 6 times, and each time I was able to pick up something different or say, oh, that was cool, or that was neat. No, I wouldn't have thought about that.
When it comes to teens and driving, there is one important thing to remember.
Pay attention to the road, pay attention to what you're doing, and make sure you make it home safe.
Chandler High School is the first high school in the district to try out this program. In Chandler, Alexis Ducraft, Cronkite News.
Today, Carl Hayden Community High School students are learning the importance of civic engagement by deciding where some of their school budget will go. Reporter Drew Marine shows us how students are being brought together to vote and make their campus a better place.
The Participatory Budgeting Project is a national program that empowers students to make decisions that will impact their community and teach them that their voice matters. The students don't just get to vote, they also get to propose the ideas.
Kids are just going to want free candy and pizza every day for lunch, but that's not at all what we're seeing from the kids.
From the 1,000 ideas that came from the Carl Hayden Community School, 3 of these ideas were chosen and put onto a ballot. One would put a community garden on campus, another would add filtered water stations, and the third would add a concession kiosk at sports events. Alma Orozco, a freshman, was the representative of the Smart and Beautiful project that would add a community garden and make use of TVs on campus by showing news channels.
When we're walking around and we see the gardens, be like, oh, I did that.
About 2,100 students here at Carl Hayden Community High School are going to be voting on a project that will receive $7,000 in funding from the Phoenix Union High School District. And Maricopa County Recorder Adrian Fontes was helping with providing ballots today and is excited to see young students being taught the voting process and how democracy works.
Every student who votes today is not going to get their choice, but they will understand that, look, this is the way democracy works, and when you've got a finite pot of money and you get to help decide what happens with that.
In Phoenix, Drew Marine, Cronkite News.
Thanks for joining us for this special edition of Cronkite News. For more multimedia coverage, go to cronkitenews.azpbs.org and click on the Future tab.